From the East and the West, you've heard others, but now you've tuned into the best. This is a Prime Wave Media production, the NFL Bet Exchange, hosted by my man, Pop DiBiase, the primetime capper, and the Don of Cape Cod, Jeff Dawson.
What's up, world? It's the one and only Pop DiBiase, the primetime capper, and none other than the Don of Cape Cod himself, Mr. Jeff Dawson, is in the building today. And you guys already know what time it is. This is the NFL Bet Exchange, and this is our part 2 of the NFL preview. You know, the first time we did this, and I know I probably say this every week when we do this portion, but the first time me and Jeff did this about 2019 when we were first starting out this show, 2019, 2020, about that time when we were first starting out the NFL Bet Exchange and all that stuff. Well, 2020. And when we were doing the NFL Bet Exchange, me and Jeff actually did a very long preview show. And the preview show went about 3.5 hours, and I could never forget it was live as well, too. So a lot of people was like, damn, y'all still talking? So, you know, it was a fun day. It was a lot of stuff, but the only bad part about that was when we sent it to the editor, he just was like, man, dude, this is going to take me a while. And it literally took him about 2 or 3 days to finish it up. And usually the guy takes about 2 hours to finish up our shows, but that was a long session of things right there. It got so long, I think he even blanked on some of the stuff, man, to be honest with you, dude. So it happens. But, Jeff, how are you today?
I'm doing okay. As I called and put you on speakerphone as I was driving to the office where I needed Noah's Ark again, 2 inches of rain, thunder, lightning, tornado warnings. It just never ends. Mother Nature and the internet still undefeated. We're up, we're running. I muscled through a 1 o'clock show to get to here. Hopefully the internet stays up. Hopefully we can get through this. AFC North, NFC North. You already know my thoughts on the AFC North, and the NFC North will be interesting for sure. But I can't wait, Pops. Blessed and honored to be a part.
Perfect. Man, you guys already know that pretty much we are talking AFC, NFC North today. And pretty much I'm trying to make sure I'm super focused, but I got 75 things happening at once. It's funny. Everybody wants to be busy with me on Friday. Monday through Thursday, you know, I'm sitting up in here. Days are just going the way that they go. But Friday, it's always somebody deadline day. But let's go ahead and jump into it. First team that we're going to talk about is a team that actually kind of took over the headlines during the offseason because they had a guy that was very adamant about getting his money, and he wound up getting his money. And he kind of set a precedent on how contracts were going to be for quarterbacks moving forward. And what he did was he, at one point, was the highest paid quarterback in the NFL, you know, after Jalen Hurts got his money. And then all of a sudden, all it did was just set up the Chargers to make sure that they had their offer together. And it's funny. They're the only team that had a guy not even mention the money. That's the Chargers. But let's go ahead and jump into it because we're going to talk about this team right here that is in a make or break season, in my opinion, because if they don't get it right now, they blowing this bad boy up. And that's going to be the Baltimore Ravens. In 2022, the team went 10-7. They made the playoffs again, lost to the rival Bengals in a pretty close competitive game. But once again, they didn't have their starting quarterback, the man himself, Mr. Lamar Jackson. And now Lamar's back. He's added OBJ. He got Zay Flowers, who might be the fantasy wide receiver hot pick for the fantasy owners. Also, you still got Mark Andrews, one of the best tight ends in football. And then you look over on the side. You still have that side, one of the best defenses over the last 25 some odd years in the NFL. And it seems like it just don't stop. And that's still their calling card is their defense. You look at the Ravens and you say to yourself, it's a Super Bowl or bust season. Jeff, what are your thoughts?
Well, if I asked you this, if we took this Baltimore Ravens team and put them in the NFC, other than Philadelphia, San Francisco, I'd put them ahead of Dallas. My point is they're in not only the AFC, but in my eyes, the most competitive division, hands down, in the NFL. You hit all the bullet points. Lamar is healthy. Lamar is paid. They add OBJ. They add Zay Flowers. Their backfield started to get me a little nervous. J.K. Dobbins, Gus Bus Edwards, Mark Andrews at tight end, Isaiah Likely, even Kohler at tight end. Their defense, very, very competitive. They've won 24 straight preseason games. Make a break year. Yeah, the natives are getting restless. In one of my shows, I think it was Sports Map Radio this week, I went back to 2013, Bubs. They asked me for an early season Super Bowl preview, and I went to 2013. The night the lights went out. And the Ravens and 49ers, I'm very, very, very high on the Ravens. I think they will do very, very well, as well as another team that we'll talk about in a few minutes. But there's nothing I can say bad other than I'm a little nervous right now of the backfield. They go as far as obviously Lamar Jackson takes them. Their defense, the best kicker in the game and probably the best ever with Mr. Justin Tucker. So I think they go past that 10-7. I think they're definitely, I know there's Joe Burrow. I get all that. But I think the Ravens are the team to beat in this division.
You know what? I'm going to have to totally agree with that. And you see that the Ravens are a very good number here, plus 180 on the championship odds. And then their over-under for wins is 10 this year. And that's very doable, very foreseeable, very, very, very good looking. And when you see a team as good as them with a over-under of 10, they usually overachieve in that situation. But the Ravens still, to me, have a ton of pressure on them because now Lamar Jackson is going to have a smaller microscope on him, meaning like a bigger, more attention, and it's going to be a smaller amount of patience with Lamar now. You know, every mistake is going to be ridiculed. Every loss is going to be ridiculed. Can he handle that pressure? Because I felt like he was starting to kind of submit to the pressure in these past few years, to be honest with you. And I think that a lot of us figured out that if you can take away certain elements of his game, then that offense becomes really, really stagnant. And that's one thing that they can't be. So hopefully they can go ahead and open up things a little bit better this year with that offense, because I feel like sometimes they turn into one-trick ponies in Baltimore, where we're doing something that's just so predictable. And when they get into that type of trouble, that doesn't bode well for this team. And that's why I said that when you look at them, they have the looks of a Super Bowl team, but at the same time, you say to yourself, they're still a little far off from that hope and dream as well, too, because I just don't feel like their running game is strong enough this year. I know they're going to have Lamar running and everything like that. They got J.K. Dobbins, but I feel like with them, in reality, you have a team that truly is kind of going through the motions of a transition period of how their team is going to look. Now it's not going to be so much about running. You know, they're even talking about turning one of their fullback into an offensive lineman now. And pretty much that's what I'm looking at right now and seeing that the Ravens are trying to become something that may not be conducive of them being an elite team this year. I don't want to see them be a pass-first team. I would much rather see them still be a run-first team. But I felt like they didn't invest enough in the run game in the offseason because J.K. Dobbins, I love the guy, awesome player, had one of the greatest careers you'll ever see at Ohio State, but he's a very injury-prone player, and we all know that. It was even an issue when he was in college. So if you don't have him going and then you have this running back by committee situation, it could prove to be something that can hold your team back, in my opinion.
You know, the difference on this year compared to other years with Baltimore is when you think about the addition of OBJ, you think of the addition of Zay Flowers. We know what Mark Andrews can do and stretch in the field. We haven't even talked about Bateman or Duvernay. And now, can Bateman stay healthy? Can Duvernay? So they're going to open up so many lanes. OBJ crossing the middle of the field. Zay being that water bug. Andrews going straight down the seam. Duvernay or Bateman going to the mailbox. So when Lamar looks past first and then sees these wide open lanes, he's going to be hell on wheels here. And if they win the turnover battle, I know I always say this, but if they win the turnover battle, and listen, think about, they only have to get 2 or 3 first downs, and Tucker's already in potential field goal range. So again, you win games and divisions and titles by scoring touchdowns in the red zone, but it's an automatic 3 at least as soon as they get to the 40. That's a 57-yarder for the most guys. It's let's go for the first down or even take the penalty and punt. For the Ravens, it's just wheel out Tucker and then let's get the 3 and kick off.
Yep. And see, they're trying to get out that mentality right now because they feel like that's lost them games over the years as well, too. So there's just a lot of things that, the Ravens are going to try to do different because they opened it up. They made sure they signed OBJ. They drafted Zay Flowers in the first round so they can have these receivers for Lamar. And so Lamar can actually sit there and pass the ball now and not just be back there, just ad-libbing. But that's not his style. You can't take that away from him. At the end of the day, he's going to be better with these two ad-libbing. That's the way that you're going to win games with them. But we will see. We will see. I just feel like the Ravens, they paid him so much money that the time for patience is wearing thin. And they have all right to, because you cried for your money. You said that you're worth it. You said that you're going to be the guy. Now you got to be the guy. And my point is, he has no more excuses. That's just really what it is. And you have no more excuses. You don't have it to where you don't have receivers. You don't have it to where you don't have certain playmakers there for you. Everything is there for you to succeed. If you can't succeed with this situation, then they might need to change positions.
Agreed.
You know what I mean? So let's move forward. Let's talk about a team. I know he's antsy too. I can see it. You can't wait to talk about him. But you know who's coming up next? It's the Bengals. And the Bengals, 12-4 in 2022. They are the favorite coming into this year as well. They look to be a very, very elite team when you look at the roster. You got Joe Mixon, one of the best running backs in the league. Even though you lost P. Ryan, it's okay because I know they'll have somebody there in place to spell Joe Mixon. Then you got the 3-headed monster at the wide receiver position in Higgins, Boyd, and I know
Chase.
Why it's slipping my tongue, but yeah, Chase. But they have Jamar Chase as a 10-1 to win Offensive Player of the Year. A lot of people are jumping all over that, but see, guys like him are guys that I can't trust because they're always having some type of little nagging injury. So people have to understand these guys are uber talented, but you have to be ready for them to miss a month as well too. And a lot of people don't factor that part in because these guys go so hard in the game and they're so talented and so balanced that literally when they get a little bit of a boo-boo, the coaches always get a little scared and don't want to, test the situation too much, because these guys are big-time playmakers. When I look at the Bengals, I see a team that is very reliant on the health of their quarterback at this point. And right now, Joe Burrow is not healthy. He has a strain to his calf, and I know everybody's going to play it down like it's not that big of a deal, but it's going to affect him throughout the first 4 weeks of the season. And that's because he's not on rhythm with his team right now because he hasn't been in training camp. And also it's because when you come back from an injury like that and the way that he plays, he wants to be moving around that pocket a little bit, and it's going to be a little bit of a tough start to the season for him. But with the Bengals, it's okay because the Bengals actually have dealt with the last few seasons starting slow. Nobody wants to admit this, but the Bengals started off 1-3 last year and lost their first 2 games of the season. And nobody even batted an eye. Everybody knew that eventually they're going to cut it on and they're going to be good because Joe Burrow is putting that confidence into everybody. But Joe Burrow this year coming in with an injury already, and he's already a guy that already tore up every single ligament in his leg his rookie season. You have to be kind of skeptical about this team moving forward. And you can't sit up there and just automatically hand them things because I don't know if I don't know if they are one of those teams. I don't trust their coach. And I truly will say this, their defense is kind of a make or break defense. If they lose certain playmakers on that side of the ball, the defense is in trouble. And the defense is really the side of the ball that really kind of keeps them looking really good. But at the same time, too, though, it is the side that makes them overwork in a lot of these games as well, too. So there's a lot of things that you factor in with the Bengals. But if I was to tell you I'm not sold on the Bengals, I would probably get hung in Southern Ohio. But I'm just not sold on the Bengals, in my opinion, when it comes down to it. Reason being is because they got them over under 11.5 wins. They got them with the odds of -105. They're really living off of what happened last season, and the schedule is going to get really tough this year for them. And they're dealing with the toughest division in football. So winning 11.5 games is going to be tough for anybody in this division when they have to play each other twice this year. So what are your thoughts on that?
I just wanted to add one quick thing. We forgot to add the Ravens signed Clowney to a 1-year deal as well. He's not the Clowney from, was it 2014, 15, 16, number 1 pick whenever he was drafted, but they did add him today as well. If this year's, now I was on the Bengals 2 years ago. Remember when Joe was in diapers and me and you used to laugh every week on the bet exchange? And 1 quarter away from winning the Super Bowl against your Rams there. This year's Bengals, in the eyes of social media, in the eyes of the so-called experts, is last year's Buffalo Bills. This is the team that everyone's anointing to take down the mighty Kansas City Chiefs. Now, yes, they have weapons. They have Joe Burrow. They have Jamar Chase. They have T. Higgins. They added Herb Smith. They have Joe Mixon. P. Ryan has gone to Denver. Great rookie running back. Keep an eye on him. Late pick in fantasy, Chase Brown. They added him. Defensively, they're better. Now, Joe's already banged up. There are rumors and talks that he might miss the first 2 weeks. He opens up in Cleveland, somewhere that he's never won. In the toughest, most competitive division. I think the 11.5 is set there for a reason. Everyone's going to flock to the over. Listen, I can see 11-6 all day. I can see 10-7 all day. The -105, I think there's a lot better value to shop around. Do I think the Bengals are going to be good? Hell yeah, they are. But they're one injury away from being at the middle to the bottom of this year's pack. I'm not buying a division. I would buy the under 11.5 this year. I would go elsewhere. But again, I respect Joe. I respect Jamar, T, and the rest of the offense. One of the better kickers in the game as well. But my money will not be on the Bengals this year.
And I just don't like the fact that they're a -105 in a division that's wide open. It just doesn't make sense to me. But, the Bengals, pretty much they are a team that really truly does have the glow that you need to have when you're coming into a season fresh off of a close loss in a championship game. But I'm going to be honest with you, Jeff. I never like it when a team plays in a conference championship the year before and they lose a close one like the Bengals did, because the regression is like literally slaps them right in the face week 1 and beyond. You know what I mean? Because they played so well to lose. And you say, don't get too excited about getting back to this because you may never get back to it. You know what I mean? So we'll see. We'll see. I think Cincinnati, there's a lot of prospects, but I think Cincinnati's and Baltimore are at the top of everybody's list when it comes to teams making the AFC Championship, teams winning the Super Bowl, when it comes to future bets. And that's the right way to go, because when you look at rosters and things like that, they have the rosters that say they're possible Super Bowl candidates. And that rings very true. And that's why this division to me is so tough this year, because you don't have a division where anybody's just going to walk in the park and go over the division and just rule over the division. And it's going to be tough. Every home game is going to be pretty much a homecoming game for everybody. And every road game is going to be critical. So it's going to be a tough year in the AFC North. But let's go ahead, and I guess I know people who know me, they probably going to think that I'm homering, but I'm going to let my man start off first with this. I'm going to let Jeff talk first about it, and then I'm going to see what he has to say, and then I'll put my 2 cents in. But none other than the Cleveland Browns, 7-10 last year. Deshaun Watson came in week 12. The Browns were kind of in a playoff position at that point. But you know what? The Browns had already kind of made up their mind that we want to have Deshaun on a full season. And if we make the playoffs, cool. If we miss the playoffs, no worries. Pretty much we got our quarterback of the future. And what they did was they made they created a lot of excitement going into this year with the way that they with the players that they have on the roster. What are your thoughts on Cleveland this year?
I was starting to get lathered up on Cleveland. In our projections in fantasy, Deshaun was one of the sneaky quarterbacks. The addition of Elijah Moore from the Jets. Nick Chubb now has not to worry about Kareem Hunt. He has left the building. They drafted a rookie who's a little nicked up right now, Jerome Ford. Amari Cooper, Njoku. They have a good offense. Everyone's waiting for Deshaun to make the next step. Well, he's not progressing as quick as they thought he was. Another pedestrian week of practices, and the Browns tied the Eagles in a meaningless preseason game last night, 18-18, on 2 missed field goals, by the way. So my point is, I think the Browns are the sexy pick. I really do. And anyone believing in the Browns, I don't have a problem with it. But if I got to put my stake and stance on a team to shock this division, it's coming up.
Oh, and which got shocked the division. And I'm over here, I'm messing with nephew right now because I thought he was talking Chiefs, but we had somebody else talking Chiefs. But we're talking AFC North and NFC North. So you guys come on in and talk to us in a few weeks when we talking the West and everything like that, because today it's not about the Chiefs, okay? And I got a little surprise for you when we talk Chiefs as well, too. All right, so wins over under 9.5. This is a lot for the Browns, dude. You know that. And division championship is at 3-1 plus 310. And pretty much the whole situation here for me is like this. The Browns have the team in place. There is no more excuses. There is no way of saying that, oh, we were missing this because we didn't have a quarterback, or we were missing this because we didn't have a wide receiver, or we didn't have a running back. The Browns have one of the best offensive lines in the NFL. It's been graded as PFF has seen them as the best offensive line going into this season. And they've been ranked in the top 5 for the last 3 years. And in one of those years, the Browns made the playoffs. So now you have a quarterback that the whole city can trust. That was the biggest problem, that Baker couldn't be trusted by the city. He was trusted by the organization. It's just the city has to have say into the situation as well, too. And that's the biggest downfall of the Browns and the same thing goes for the Raiders. It's where you have too many mouthy fans. They already want to cut the kicker, and the kicker made 3 kicks last night, but he missed the most important one, the one to win the game last night. So, yeah, we got to cut him because he was drafted in the 6th round, and he's not hitting kicks like Justin Tucker. Hey, you know what? I saw Janikowski come to the league, and Janikowski missed his first 6 field goals in the NFL. And then the field goal that he hit was a 59-yard game winner in Kansas City. We all looked up and said, we'll be fine. Because now you guys start to realize kicking a field goal might be one of the toughest things that you'll do in life ever. So, kind of back it up just a little bit, because if you can't kick the ball 50 yards down the field, then you can't really talk. That's the whole thing. So I feel that the Browns are on the brink, but you can't sit here and get so excited about potential. It's been like this for the last 5 years with the Browns, but that just goes to show you that they have a coach in place that is geared towards winning. It's crazy that Stefanski actually has been the longest tenured coach in the Cleveland Browns return history. Think about that, Jeff. He's probably the longest tenured coach since Romeo Crennel. And he's won more games than Romeo Crennel as well, too. Romeo Crennel got to stick around because Romeo was just a great leader of men. But the biggest problem is that they had an egotistical general manager in Savage, and they had a silly owner in Lerner. So it could never work. But if you would have gave us Romeo about another 2 or 3 years, the Browns could have probably been a very successful team because they built a foundation. You know what I mean? And I feel like with Stefanski, they finally been able to build a foundation. So that's why the expectations are right where they need to be at. And the Browns, that they too are in a make or break season, in my opinion, because the Haslams have spent the money. They spent money on Chubb. They spent money on Cooper. They spent money on Watson to ensure that this team can get to the playoffs and be a viable Super Bowl contender. And it all happens with the defense stepping it up, in my opinion. The defense has to be the calling card this year. The offense, you can't rely on them to be great. You have to rely on the defense to be your calling card, because when you have a great running game like the Browns do, then the defense needs to be the star of the show. And I feel like that's what has to happen for the Browns to really take the next step. Your defense has to be top 10, not top 15, not top 20, not bottom 32, top 10, Jeff, top 10. And I'm not talking about at 10. I'm talking about 5, 6, 7, where every week that, hey, this might be a tough game. And the Browns showed a little bit of that last night with some pretty hungry players. They got safeties last night. They had 3 sacks in the first half. So there's a lot of things to be excited about if you're a Cleveland Browns fan. But you also, as a Cleveland Browns fan, you also have a lot to worry about. So that's just another year with the Browns. But all in all, they're 1-1-1 in the preseason, and they played 3 very impressive games. And I'm telling you right now, Deshaun, you better watch your back, because DTR, the city's fallen in love with them, and the guy has shown that these scouts don't know ish about scouting no damn quarterback position. I'm telling you now. It's hard to pass up on a guy that started 41 games, Jeff, in college, for a guy that maybe started 6. But he got all the physical attributes. So, somebody told us he could be like Mahomes, and that's we going to just run with that. Bad mojo. I said, for every Patrick Mahomes, there's Josh Freeman.
Oh, yeah.
Same exact person, same exact player. Just one had a 30-year-old coach. The other one had a 65-year-old coach.
Amen.
But let's any last words on the Browns before we move to
No,
the
I mean, the number set at 9.5 versus an 11.5. Again, they want you to bet the under here. If the Browns are going to succeed, I can see them going over. I can see them winning the division. I just not seeing it now. The progression that I needed to see from Watson, all the pieces, as you said, are in place. Maybe it's a 2-2 start. Maybe that's what it is. Do they upset Cincinnati, which is now down to close to a pick 'em? I think they're going to beat Cincinnati, to be honest with you, week 1. Do they build off of that? Do they come out of the gates 3-1? The pieces are there. The over 9.5 is there. The plus 310 is there. I'm just going to put my flag. Listen, I think the Ravens win the division, gun to head. I do. But I'm going to shock the world in about 2 minutes.
All right. I like it. And you know what? I can see, and once again, I can see Jeff's getting a little antsy. I'm going to let him kick this one off. The Pittsburgh Steelers, another above 500 season. They missed the playoffs, but they worked themselves into a winning record after being so, they had a bad start to the season. It was an atrocious start to the season. And everybody was like, well, Pittsburgh, they drafted in the top 5 for the first time in 50 years. And that didn't happen because Mike Tomlin is not a quitter and he's not a loser. And so pretty much he was able to rally the troops. And then I'd say every single week on NFL Bet Exchange, y'all got to stop sleeping on Tomlin. And this was the last 7 weeks of the season when they had already wrote Pittsburgh off. And I said, no, this guy's going to start running the table and the Steelers are going to start getting some ugly wins. And that's exactly what happened. And pretty much they finish up 9-8 after beating the Browns the final game of the season. But this year, a lot of people are still not taking the Steelers seriously because they don't believe Kenny Pickens is the guy. And I think that Kenny Pickens, all he did was improve, and improve some more. And you know what? The guy had 2 concussions last year and still was able to get better as the season went along. Unlike another guy we know that was down south. So, pretty much, but that's funny though. Kenny Pickett didn't get nobody feeling bad for him and his concussions, but Tua had a whole Save the Wells Foundation really just, they literally, it was almost damn near an NFL protest about what happened to Tua. But I think that everything happens for a reason, and I think that when it comes down to the Pittsburgh Steelers, Najee Harris has to be the focal point of that offense. And then everything else falls in line after that. He's going to be exactly what Christian McCaffrey is to the 49ers, to me. And that's what's going to be the X factor and the defining point of this team having a really good season, in my opinion, Jeff. And I'm seeing it right now with the Steelers that they have it set up to where they are a over under of 8.5 and then a 5-1 on division championship odds. And I think that this might be one of the best odds that you can get for a division champion, for a team that's getting overlooked. And wins and losses and wins this year over under 8.5. And this is pretty high from where I'm at, because they have some places that have the Steelers at 6.5 this year. Why are they expecting the Steelers to be a top 15 drafting team next year? That's absolutely out the picture for me. I think that the Steelers are going to be a team that's going to be competitive once again, and they're going to be a team that's going to spoil somebody's season just like they do every year. And watch out for George Pickens. That's an absolute Pro Bowler right there. Your thoughts, though. Go ahead. I'm going to let you take the stage on the Steelers.
Mike Tomlin's never had a losing season. Now, again, this could be the egg on face. We'll come back to this in November or December. I mean, the numbers are set up for egg on the face. I mean, he's never had a losing season, so therefore he's going to be 9-8 at worst. So there you go. You get your over there. 5-1 is an absolute joke. Pickett, I'm not calling him Ben Roethlisberger, but I can see him making the next step forward. Pickens is emerging. 149 looks last year to Deontay Johnson. Those drops, bad throws, whatever you want to call them, the catch rate is only going to increase. Najee Harris, Jalen Warren, Pat Frymouth. They draft the tight end from Georgia, Darnell Washington. And I'll say this right now. They probably, if healthy, they go as far as Watt. If Watt can stay healthy and play 15, 16 games, have the best defense in this division. And I said it, that's over the Ravens. So my point is, this is value, and more value. I think that they, on paper, have a team that, as you said, goes as far as Najee Harris. Listen, is he going to be Le'Veon Bell this year? I know he wasn't the Najee Harris we thought he was. I just think the next year, the emergence of Pickett, to Pickens, to Deontay Johnson, to Frymouth, with a division, with a defense that's only getting better. This is, to me, the shocker of all. I would not be shocked to see these guys at 11-6 winning this division. I'll take the 5-1. I'll take the over 8.5. We'll address this the first of every month, but this is the steal of the century, no pun intended.
Hey, you know what? In the moment I saw a 5-1 on the Steelers over under 8.5, I said they trying to make you give up on the Steelers. They're trying to sell this idea that the Steelers are going to regress, and that's not even the case. Because when we really look at and we rate quarterbacks in this division, Kenny Pickett could be the number one quarterback in the division at the end of the year. Kenny Pickett showed a lot of traits of being a very, very serviceable quarterback in this league for a very long time. And let's not forget, he was the best quarterback coming into the draft, his draft year. Yeah, it was a down year for quarterbacks, but y'all just did that because he went to Pittsburgh and he was in the ACC. If he would have been an Ohio State guy, UCLA guy, it would be a big deal. But he wasn't. He went to Pitt. And I said, him going to Pitt should really get you even more excited, because guess who else went to Pitt? Dan Marino. And what the Steelers are doing is they made up for not drafting Dan Marino. So you guys have to understand, it's a real movie getting written in Pittsburgh now. Y'all thought they loved Ben. They're going to really love Kenny, because Kenny's a hometown kid. It's different. It's not a guy that just was a miracle quarterback for you. This guy is actually one of you. So it is what it is. You know what I mean? So pretty much there that is. And let's go ahead, take our first commercial break. When we get back, it's time to talk about the NFC. I know that we got to wake up Chicago right now. So all my Chicago people that are watching the show, you up first. And, be ready. Be ready. But all in all, though, this is the NFL Bet Exchange. I'm your host. Well, one of your hosts. It's not all about me. But it's one host, Pop DiBiase, the Primetime Capper, and the grand host, the man himself, the Don of Cape Cod, Mr. Jeff Dawson. And we will be right back to you.
Good News Only Racing Club, led by the legendary Doug O'Neill, the trainer of 2 Kentucky Derby winners, and I'll have another in Nyquist. Also trained 2-time Breeders' Cup champ Golden Sense, who are just a part of a long list of thoroughbred champions trained by Doug O'Neill. The Good News Only Racing Club has a young core of horses to look out for in Dennis's Celery, Irish Heatwave, and Notre Dame, just to name a few. Win the day every day with the Good News Only Racing Club, a proud sponsor of the NFL Bet Exchange.
From the East and the West, you've heard others, but now you've tuned into the best. This is a Prime Wave Media production.
Tune into Big Wave Boxing every week with a brand new guest, with the one and only Pop DiBiase, the Primetime Capper, getting the best boxing stories, best boxing angles, and the truth when it all comes down to this week's science. Tune in to Big Wave Boxing on the Prime Wave Media channel on YouTube.
All right, we are back with the premier sports betting show, the Primetime Angles. Just over here looking at Saratoga right now, Jeff. I'm just like, man, I hate when the track is just muddy because it's just go get the chalk out, and just go ahead, go get the 200 and just keep riding that for your 250.
Well, the 12, the 7 at 12 to 1, again, if the track wasn't sloppy, might have held on.
Man, I needed the 1 Frozen Ford. I said that horse is absolute garbage. I said that's the second time around with you, and you don't even show up and try to win. I'm done with you. I don't like big favorites that don't like to win.
No way to be found.
Sometimes, you know what? I always tell people the form is the reason why people get messed up, because they'll look at a horse in the form and he stands out so good. And then he gets on the track and I guess he didn't get his proper carrots or something. And then next thing you know, he's jogging. He don't care. You know what I mean? And you're not going to just tell him he has to care. You're not going to just, man, I'm telling you right now, dude. I'm telling you. If horses could talk, boy, it would be a wrap. They'd be making some real money right now, boy. I'm telling you. So let's go ahead and jump into it. The Bears, Chicago 2022 season. This is the worst record we talked about all year long from last year. That's crazy. We done reviewed three divisions, and we didn't have one team as bad as this team. This team went 3-14. And what was it, Jeff? They lost the last, 11 in a row? Because they were 3-2 at one point, right?
They beat the Patriots as 9-point underdogs on that Monday night. That was Justin Fields' coming out party, and they didn't win again.
Yeah, and that was pretty bad. That, you have a team that had all this potential going into the season, and they got this surefire they got this young gunner quarterback that's supposed to ascend them to winning, because he's supposed to carry them, literally carry them. And it just couldn't happen. And by him having such a great fantasy season, everybody backed up on judging him too hard, because he helped a lot of people win their fantasy leagues. But everybody understood that they put him in a position not to win.
Mm-hmm.
You didn't have receivers. You had a running back that is very inconsistent in Montgomery, who's now with your rival in Detroit. And then the thing that the Chicago lacked, that was a very, very telling situation of the Chicago Bears last year, Jeff, the defense was atrocious. I've never sat there and saw Chicago be that bad of a defense week in and week out. And it was really sad to see the monsters of the Midway become the puppies of the Midway. You know what I mean? The punks of the Midway. When you think about the Chicago Bears, you think about a tough, rough group of men. It doesn't even matter what year it is with the Chicago Bears. They've always been rough around the edges. But last year, that was one of the softest situations I've ever seen with the Bears, period. And I know it was embarrassing, because I've seen the Bears have bad seasons before, but that was an embarrassing season, because literally they went into every game and you knew they were going to lose after that Patriots game. And they had games where it was like they literally just were like, we're going to refuse to win. And when you have a team that's just refusing to win the game, it's really upsetting to the crowd. They didn't gave you every opportunity to win the game, but here we are losing. Great example, Buffalo game. They had the Buffalo game won 6 times and couldn't figure it out and wind up losing. So, there's just a lot of things that say to me that I think we're being a little bit ahead of the curve a little bit here in Chicago. 7.5 wins, Jeff. So you're telling me they'll improve by 5 more wins than they did last year. I don't know about that. I see odds for plus 360. This team went 3-14 last year, Jeff. Why are we sitting here giving them all the grace in the world? I just don't understand that part. Clue me in.
It's because we always talk about this. You buying the sizzle or you buying the steak. So people want to compare Justin Fields to Jalen Hurts, and they want to take the jump that Jalen made and compare it to now what the expectations are of Justin Fields. Now, for Jalen to make that jump, it was A.J. Brown. It was Devontae Smith. It was a better offensive line. It was a better running back core, and obviously a lot better defense. And you could probably say a lot better coaching as well. So what has Chicago, who had the worst offensive line in the game, what have they done this offseason? Well, let me see. David Montgomery now on the Lions. Khalil Herbert gets the number 1 spot. They draft Roschon Johnson out of Texas, who was behind Bijan Robinson. They add DJ Moore, not A.J. Brown, DJ Moore. Another year of Darnell Mooney. There was some chemistry with Fields to commit the second half of the year. The problem is their offensive line is still not good in comparison to the Eagles, and their defense is still pretty damn bad. That 7.5 numbers there for a reason, though. Don't forget, no Aaron Rodgers. And don't forget the Vikings, who 2 years ago were the worst team in the NFL in one-possession games, to the best. So they're expecting regression from the Vikings, regression from the Packers, and everyone's already anointed the Lions as the division winner. I love Fields this year. I think he does make the next step. I love the addition to DJ Moore. I think Mooney will be better. I do like the Herbert Roschon Johnson backfield. I think the number's pretty close, Pops. I could see a 7-10. I could see an 8-9. The plus 360 should be around plus 500. And like the Steelers, I would jump on it. I'm going to say this. Don't count the Bears out. But I think they're overvalued as the Packers are undervalued. In other words, we're ready to bury the Packers, and we haven't seen Jordan Love yet. And we want to move the Bears up into that conversation. And could it happen? It might. This by far, there's 4 teams here in this division. Call me stupid. You can do that here. Call me stupid. All 4 of these teams could win the division. All 4 of these teams could finish ass last in this division.
And see, you just beating me to the punches and stuff now, dude. And that's what I know about this division. That's why when we talk about this next team, I'm really going to fry because I don't understand why they are minus on this situation. But my point with the Bears is this. If the Bears can get their defense to be a top 15 defense, the Bears got a shot. They got a shot. And I think the elements that Justin Fields brings, he's only going to be better this year. He's not going to regress. He's going to be better. And I sat there and watched Justin Fields for 2 seasons at Ohio State. Everybody knows I'm a big Buckeyes fan. And Justin Fields, this might be something that sounds crazy right now, but nobody has ever played the quarterback position at Ohio State like he did. I don't care what anybody says. Justin Fields used to make me very comfortable every time he stepped on the field. Literally, even in the Clemson and Alabama, even in the Alabama blowout and all that stuff, I was still confident that they could win that game just because how good Justin Fields was. Justin Fields got a good touch pass. He got a good IQ. The guy has a brain. And that's why he's able to make those crazy runs and crazy plays because he's an ad-libber. And all the guys who know how to ad-lib, those are the great ones, Jeff. And you know this. And a lot of times you need a struggle to become a great player. Look at the San Francisco 49ers. Nobody ever asks about Joe Montana's rookie season. You know, he's splitting reps with Steve DeBerg, and they were the worst team in the NFL. So there's a lot of things that people just don't understand about great careers. And I think Justin Fields is a guy that's in the process of having a great career. His first year, he had a bad coach for him because Nagy wasn't a bad coach overall. He's a bad coach for him. And then you bring in Abelius, this guy from Indianapolis, who wants to make sure that he impresses upon the ownership that he is intrigued by the quarterback and that this quarterback, he's not worried about that he wants to develop the quarterback. And that's exactly what they did. He saw what he did best and said, go ahead and do it. But they've worked on things as well, too. And that's why I said that Chicago, it's all based on your defense because your quarterback, I think Fields can get you 6 wins by himself, but he's going to need some help to get over that hump of 7.5 games. That's how I'm feeling this year. They'll be way better than 3-14 this year. We all know that. And they do have weapons. They got a good little running game going, and then their wide receiver game has stepped up big time. DJ Moore. And we all know that they were pumping up his other receiver, my man from Pittsburgh. They were giving they were trying to make him the next Pittsburgh Hall of Famer, Claypool, before he showed how lazy he was there. And pretty much now Claypool's in Chicago with Justin. So it should be something that's going to be huge moving forward for the Chicago Bears because they have some actual playmakers. This is the first time that you've seen the Bears with an actual feasible, hey, this is kind of a good offense situation. They always have flaws on the offensive end, and it's usually at the quarterback position, but they don't have that anymore. So when you get the Bears to have a better than good quarterback, it always works out, and it always works out for them. And that's why we know that the Bears, like you said, you cannot sleep on them at all. You can't say that the Bears are going to still be a bad team because they didn't do all this maneuvering to still be a bad team. And it's that it is what it is at the end of the day. It's going to wind up being a very, very fun season for the Bears, and I look forward to it. I can't wait till week 1 when they play the Packers. Now, I'm got myself pumped up for that game now, Jeff. I'm telling you, that's going to be a good game come week 1. And you know what? When you think about the North, before we go into the Lions, when you think about the North, it's a beautiful day in the North because this is the first time in about 20-some-odd years where you don't have Brett Favre or Aaron Rodgers playing for the Packers. And this is the first time since about 1993 that you could say everybody in the division has a chance, not named Packers. That's how long the Packers have kind of ruled this division in a sense. You know what I mean? We know they haven't won it every single year, but we know that they've been the most talked about team in the division every single year. So let's move forward and let's talk about the Lions and the Detroit Lions. Boy, oh boy, a team that was at one point 1-7, Jeff, 1-7 to start the year. They finish up 9-8. 9-8. This team literally took the whole nation by storm, week in and week out, after when they went on their little run in the second half of the season. But they duplicated the same thing from 2021. They had a horrible start and then wound up playing so well second half of the season, wound up going 6-1 and 1 second half of the season, 2021. So this team has shown that they're a second half of the season type of team, but they need to be able to put it together for both sides of the season. And that's the biggest thing with the Lions right now is that you say, okay, Lions, are we going to be playing some real? Are we for real? Is this going to actually be a season where we can say we're going to be one of those teams this year? Can we go back and duplicate what we had somewhat in the 90s? We was talking about another day. We was talking about Mel Gray and Herman Moore and Brett Perryman. And then my boy said, and everybody always brings up Scott Mitchell. I'll be like, well, it was Scott. Forget Scott Mitchell. Scott Mitchell wasn't nothing but Dan Marino's backup. The quarterback in Detroit was Rodney Peete, brother. You know what I mean? And they knew they messed up when they moved on from Rodney Peete because they had drafted Andre Ward. So they put themselves in a bad position with both quarterbacks. So what happened was Fonts, who was a great coach, got confused on who to really play, and then everybody lost their job. And so the Lions thought they were being real slick and real up to date by going and getting Dan Marino's backup, who had one good game against a struggling Cleveland Browns team and pretty much got himself a job, some unnecessary money. And pretty much everybody always talks about Scott Mitchell because the Lions overspent on a guy when they could have just drafted a quarterback at the time. There were plenty of quarterbacks that were available at that time. So that's just a little story about why the Lions have been stuck in neutral for the last 30 years. So the Lions today are a team that they have a lot of expectations, Jeff. They have high expectations. It's all about it's not about trying this year, trying to win games this year. They have the idea that they're going to win games and they're going to compete. And the bettors have shown up. They weren't the favorite to start the year. The favorite was the Minnesota Vikings when they released the odds. But as every month goes by, they pour more money into the Lions because their coach has some viral moment or some type of story of how great of a guy he is. You know what I mean? And at the end of the day, I'm gonna go ahead. FCC, you guys can go ahead and blurt me out for later episodes, but that doesn't mean shit at the end of the day. Seriously. Detroit, sit your ass down. You know who you are. And you know that it's going to take a lot more than coaches' motivational speeches for you guys to be a really good team. I feel like for this team to really be good this year, Jared Goff has to be the ultimate game manager, but he has to take himself back to the level he was at when they went to the Super Bowl. That type of leadership level he was at when they played your Patriots back in 2018. That's the mentality that he has to have going into this season, that, you know what, we're seen as a team with high expectations. We're seen as the team that's supposed to win this division. Let's act like it. We're not going to be the Detroit get-along gang. We're not going to be the bad news bears anymore. We're going to come in here and be a very good football team every week. Every single week. We're gonna put the work in. You have all the offensive weapons that you've always dreamed of. Jameson, a guy that I'm still not sold on. I'm sorry, Jeff. I'm just not that sold on a guy. I'm sorry. He's good, but he has injury issues, and he's already out for the preseason. They got St. Brown, who now will probably be top. What do you think he's moving at in the fantasy draft? Do you think he's a first or second rounder now?
No, he's been getting pushed to the first. Actually, on our show earlier this afternoon, he's that one guy. It'd be nice if you're picking in the back, let you grab the Diggs or a Lamb or an AJ Brown, and then you came right back with St. Brown, so he's your number two. I mean, he's probably going to have 115 to 125 catches. His problem is at the touchdowns. He's not going to get you enough on the touchdowns. His average catch is that 10, 11, 12 yards. So his yak after his catches isn't there as well. An amazing, listen, he doesn't drop a ball. I mean, his work ethic is second to none. Again, the fact that Jameson Williamson out for 6 weeks, already dealing with injuries, gambling, yada, yada, yada. I use the 4 letters for him, BUST. Okay, they're going to need Gibbs. They brought Marvin Jones back. Their offense is going to be fine, Pops. But if you're eyeing St. Brown, do yourself a favor. Grab a wide receiver in front of him, then get St. Brown. So he's your number 2.
Well, my thing is like this. I'm like any other GM. I had St. Brown last year, and he was a key part to us winning the championship. But I feel like all the GMs that want to play cheap with players, all of a sudden, I got to let them walk. Jeff, I got to let him walk. Because I'm looking at other guys in position, and I'm keep kind of putting it together that there's going to be more game planning around him. So I might have to move on from St. Brown. You know what I mean? So, if he's there, after because I want to select him in the 4th or 5th. I'm not risking. I don't want to get him in the 1st or 2nd round. I don't see him as that type. I don't see it as that much of a need at that point. I can't, I'm going to probably do what I did last year and shock the system, get a quarterback early, because I think that we're starting to trend towards the quarterback now being selected earlier than the running back, since they're trying to fucking eliminate the position. You know what I mean? So, but I still think Nick Chubb's the best player overall for anybody to draft on. If you feel somebody's going to be, if you're going to make sure you got a constant, consistent player. But the only thing about Nick is if you want to keep him healthy. But let me stay on the topic real quick. I agree with you, Jeff. I think that it's a defensive situation with Detroit. If the defense doesn't step up the way that they did in the second half of the season, then this is going to be another 5-12 Detroit team. Let's just keep it real, okay? They're not going to be that good of a team if they can't get defense this year. The offense is there. It's been there. But the defense has to be a top 15 defense for them to even think about the playoffs. They still are who they are, Jeff. It doesn't change who they are. That's great. You had some good second halves of the season, but did you make the playoffs? No, you did not. Your coach can only have so many pep talks before nobody's listening. So you know how it goes, brother. You know how it goes. It's put up or shut up time. And I know old lady Ford is thinking like that as well too. She's done enough babysitting with these guys. Now it's time to show up. She's put them in place. She's let them do what they had to do to be put in place. Now it's time to win. You got the fans excited. You got the city excited. You got the NFL world excited. It's time to show up. There is no excuse no more, Detroit. You're supposed to be here. You're supposed to be a good team this year. It's that simple. I don't even remember the last time they had these guys at over under 9.5 wins. Probably my freshman year in college. I don't know, but it's been a long time. It's been a long time. All right, so let's move forward. And I know you can't wait to talk about these guys, but the Packers. Green Bay Packers. Last time we saw the Green Bay Packers, we saw them losing to the Lions at Lambeau. Something that's very rare. I think, the 4th time in 40 years that's happened? Maybe the third time it's happened, but it happened. And they pretty much said good riddance to Aaron Rodgers. I think everybody knew that was Aaron Rodgers' last game in Green Bay last year. And now you have the Packers finally can breathe easy. They got their coach, their brand new they got their coach now who has really no excuse on how to approach seasons. The guy had a head start, 27-5 over a 2-year stretch, and then goes 8-9 last year. But it was because his quarterback was a middling quarterback. He wasn't an above average quarterback for him. So are you really a good coach, or was Aaron Rodgers that just good of a player to put you guys in a position to be that dominant of a team? Now, I feel that Jordan Love is more than ready, because by Rodgers staying that extra year, Jeff, and really the year he got the extension, that should have been the writing on the wall for Green Bay to move on. But they didn't. They thought that they could have Aaron Rodgers for life and that we were kumbaya. We'll move, you'll retire for us. But Aaron Rodgers was such a punk about helping Jordan Love become a starting NFL quarterback that they literally had to go ahead and do another standoff with another quarterback to get his ass out the room. And guess who makes the deal with him? The Jets, just like the last time. And I feel that Jordan Love has shown a lot of really good things in camp. And I think he's doing all the things that the 49ers expected Trey Lance to do. And Jordan Love was a damn good quarterback at Utah State with limited playmakers. Let's keep it real. He just played with a team that played really hard. And this is why when you look at Green Bay's situation in the over-under, Green Bay brings the most value in this division, in my opinion, when it comes to any futures. Plus 360 to win the division. Your coach has already won it twice. And actually, he's only lost about twice in the division, I think, Jeff. What, isn't it twice over the last few years? He's 14-2? So, or 16-2, something like that. So the guy is good against the division. And pretty much now you have Jordan Love here, a fresher, faster quarterback who can do all those things that Rodgers was doing within that playbook, but a little bit better because he's younger and he's faster. And this really shows me that people are very quick to throw teams away because they don't have certain names anymore. But we have to remember, this the MFN Green Bay Packers, the first ever Super Bowl champions, Lombardi's boys. You never write them off. What you talking about, Willis? You know what I mean? They'll be here. They'll be there. And I like Green Bay going into the season. I think Green Bay brings a bunch of value. That plus 360 is safe. Your thoughts, Jeff?
A lot to dissect there. Defensively, I think probably on paper the Packers have the best defense. A young head coach now that has his quarterback, a running duo of Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon. Christian Watson came onto the scene last year with Romeo Doubs. Jaden Reed, keep an eye on him for a late fantasy swing there. Tight end, they add a rookie as well. Again, are you buying the dip or not? The Bears opened up, 3.5-point favorites, now 2.5-point favorites opening game, Bears and Packers. So you'll know a lot right away there. That number's intriguing. There'll be some ebbs and flows and some dips throughout the year here. A division again that I'm going to go on record to say any one of them can win. Any one of them can finish last. I think the number's set pretty good here. I could see 7-10. I could see 8-9. Maybe even 9-8. There is value on the plus 360 there. I'll tell you this, I'm not buying the chalk. That number there, I'm not buying the chalk on the Lions here. So I see where your eyes are here. I think Vegas has got this one pretty good, though. So does the Packers win the division? Could they? Sure. Will they? I'll know more, say, October 1st. How's that, Pops?
See, and that's the whole thing, Jeff. We just over here throwing stuff at the wall. We know that. And we know that it takes 6 weeks to really understand the race. Because we're going to have teams that are going to come out 2-0, win by double digits first 2 games, and wind up losing 6 in a row after that. And they'll say, which team is that? It could be the Arizona Cardinals. Sometimes teams just have – it's a week-to-week season. It's not, every 4 weeks. It's a week-to-week season, really. And every time you win, you had a great practice that week. Every time you lose, you had horrible practices that week. They'll never tell you how practice goes. You know what I mean? We never know until we get to Sunday. So that's why I always say we got to love the NFL because how unpredictable it is. We could have a team start the first month of the year and they'll say, this looks like a playoff team. And then 2 months later, this looks like the team that's going to be drafted in the top 5. They kind of did that with the Bears last year. They got excited with the Bears when they beat your Patriots. Oh, they're coming. Oh, we shouldn't have slept on them. Then they just continued to get their ass kicked week in and week out. Yeah, it's a week by week. A team can look like the greatest team that ever played the game of football one week. Then the next week they look like a JV team over at the Riverside School of the Deaf. So it's a week by week situation. It does vary. So let me go ahead, move us forward. because Jeff's giving me the hurry up look. So let me go ahead and get us to Minnesota. Cold like Minnesota. Cold like Minnesota. And we over here, we sleeping too hard on Minnesota. Now we done ran into the team with probably the best record other than the Eagles that we've talked about. And the Minnesota Vikings were an absolute gem of a team last year because they understood how to win close crunch games. It didn't matter how the game went. They won. They had the clutch gene last year, and everybody was pissed because it was them with the clutch gene last year. And all I got to say is Buffalo game. That right there should have showed you that, you know what, when this team is is running on all cylinders, they're one of the best in the NFL. No doubt. They have a roster that's built to be a Super Bowl team. It's just, do you have a coach that can get you there? Do you have a quarterback that can get you there? They just don't have the leadership, in my opinion, the Minnesota Vikings. When you look at the Vikings going into the season, I feel like they're literally disrespecting the Vikings. Come on, dude. Over under 8.5. They won 13 games last year. And plus 235 to win the division over a Detroit team minus 110. Detroit ain't won the division in 35 years. Dude, what are we doing here? Not 35, but about 32 years. So you have them in position to win the division, but then you have a team in Minnesota that absolutely ran roughshed on the whole division last year and finished 13-4, and you got them at plus 235. I would more be ready to sign up with what the Vikings are doing than what the Lions are doing. The Lions are over here hoping and wishing. The Vikings have the team that can actually run the table in this division. They're the only team that you really have confidence in to win this division at the end of the day. I'm not picking them to win it yet, but if you pick anybody to win the division just off the top of your head, it's Minnesota. Why not? Justin Jefferson is considered an MVP candidate, offensive player of the year candidate. Yeah, you lost Dalvin Cook, but you still got McKesson there as well, too. Then you got TJ Hawkinson there, and then you still got a pretty good defense there as well, too. It's just about the fact about the Vikings being closers. They just can't close, and that's where everybody has their gripe at. But at the end of the day, the Lions present the best value out of any team we've talked about today. Jeff, your thoughts?
A team, again, 2 years ago that was the worst in the NFL on one-possession games, and last year they were the best. What sticks out to me the most about this team is go back to the playoffs where they had that 13-4 record, yet everyone in their world had the Giants beating them, and they did. And so that might have been the start of what's yet to come, why you're seeing such a big difference in the numbers here from 13 wins to an over-under of 8.5. They lose Dalvin Cook, in comes Matson. They have Ty Chandler. They also have Homer from Chicago over there trying to get some reps in there. Justin Jefferson, considered the best wide receiver in the game. They lose Adam Thielen now with the Panthers. They add Jordan Addison from USC, who's supposed to step right into Thielen's shoes. They got TJ Hawkinson midseason. All the numbers say to me, I'll be honest with you, Pops, I think they actually go under the 8.5. I think they're going to lose a lot of these close possession games. But again, it's a division where they're all going to beat up on each other. Everyone's expecting the Lions. I have to say this about the Lions for one quick second, because I didn't say much about them during the show, is you have to remember they open up Thursday night at Kansas City. Okay. So if they have an under-over of 9.5, and they're 6.5 point underdogs in Kansas City, let's say they lose to Patty Mahomes. Let's say they start the year 0-1. So now you got 16 games to get your over 9.5. They're going to have to do what? Well, they're going to have to win 10 games, and they're going to have to go 10-6 in those last 16 games to get the over there. So I'm listen, can the Vikings win this division? Hands down, of course they can. Plus 235 is a gift. And especially if the Lions start the year 0-1. And you know this, Chicago or Detroit, they play each other. Divisional game. One of them's going to start 0-1. So you might want to wait till after week 1, or you might want to jump in now. A division, like I says, all 4 teams can win this thing, and all 4 can lose it. So I think Vegas has got this one properly priced, Pops.
And there it is. There it is. And pretty much another really, really good show. Another really good way of breaking it on down. I thank you so much for that, Mr. Dawson. And when I look at this division, one last statement that I have before we sign off. But I feel like when you look at this division, you say, okay, when you look at roster, you probably say, to me, the Vikings probably got the best roster, okay? When you look at the coach situation, you say Green Bay probably has the best coach when you look at the record of the division. When you look at a team that has the best chemistry, you look at the Lions. And then when you look at a team that has the look of a team that's ascending and has the superstar of the division, it's the Bears. And that's why we come down to this division being other than the AFC South, this division is probably the most wide open division of them all. And it's the most wide open division in the NFC. And that's tough to say because I'll have a little bit more to talk about. I thought it was going to be the South, but the more and more I look at the South, I've kind of came up with my assumption about how that division is going to go, but we'll talk about that more next week. But the North is going to be both North divisions are going to be a very difficult situation. And when we look at the AFC North, same kind of thing. You look at it in a sense, you got the Bengals probably have the star power, have the best star power. The Ravens have the best roster, both sides. Steelers have the best coach in Tomlin. And the Browns have, like I said, like I was pretty much just said about the Bears, they probably have the 2 superstars of the division in Deshaun Watson and Chubb, meaning that they'll be the most talked about people in the division most times. So we got some parity here. And I just really can't wait to break out all my over-unders when we do part 4 of our shows and stuff like that. But with that, I can't keep folks too much longer. And I want to thank you guys so much for tuning in today. Jeff, any final thoughts before we wrap this thing up?
No, another week under the belt. Enjoy the NFL this weekend. 2 games tonight, Carolina at New York and the Bengals at Atlanta. Got a full slate on Saturday afternoon and a game on Sunday with the Saints at your Chargers. So excited for fantasy, excited for the NFL Bet Exchange. More data to get in, more processing, who's getting cut, who's getting added, who got injured, who didn't get injured. So everyone stay tuned here. Always honored and blessed to be a part, and a big season ahead of us coming soon.
Yes, I cannot wait. And absolutely incredible stuff coming from both of us as we move along in this NFL season and all that good stuff. I'm excited, man. I am really excited about this year. Maybe because I won my fantasy title last year. That's why I'm probably really excited. So, but we'll see. We'll see. I'm getting a little nervous now because, once you win the league, you start worrying about putting together the perfect roster. But then you have to figure out that, they're going to have to show up for you first too. It don't matter who you put on that team. They're going to have to show up, So, man, great show today. Thank you for everybody who watched the show today. We'll be back next Friday. Hopefully, if Jeff doesn't have any issues with internet or anything like that, or little dogs running in the room, drop kicking them or anything like that. So, we'll be back next week to talk some more, and me and Jeff will be together on Thursday to talk some LA East Coast stuff as well too. The Primetime Angles is going to be coming up probably in the next 45 minutes to an hour, so you guys make sure to be ready for that. Going to be breaking some stuff down, and then we got talking tickets as well too. So thank you so much for tuning in one last time, and with that, we are gone.
Thank you for tuning in to the NFL Bet Exchange, where the sharpest bets are laid.